Hello, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today we have a new friend with us, and can you tell us who you are, what you do, and what you love about what you do?
Sure. My name is Elyse Stoner. I am the founder and chief strategist with Fresh Perspective Consulting. And what I do is I bring my 30 years of sports and arena event management and marketing to businesses to help them maximize the marketing value of their events. And what I love the most about it is really the fresh perspective that I can partner with people and bring some new ideas to watch their events really have a lot of value.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know from our conversations, you have a very deep experience in all sorts of different events and conventions and meetings and things like that. What are some of your favorite, like, tell me a favorite one that you've been part of?
It's sort of like me asking you which one's your favorite child.
It's the dog.
Well, yeah, there's that. You know, everything everything I've done has been, I really try to find the interesting part of it.
Yeah.
Like there's the glamorous stuff.
Yeah.
Like, well, I've been on the local organizing committee for a women's Final Four. I've been fortunate enough to attend a lot of both men's and women's Final Four. So if you're a sports person, they're totally amazing. I've gotten a lot of value out of some of the fundraisers that I've been able to help clients put together. And even I find the value as I work with some of my professional services clients who are doing an event, whether it's a client thank you or a conference or a summit, and the ability to let them take advantage of what they're doing, being with the clients, being with the speakers, making sure that the right people are in the room, and I take care of everything else so that they can go and do their job. That's
Yeah.
really what I love most about what I do.
That's fun. That's cool. Yeah. Because what people like me, I go to events and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And what an amazing event. But what you don't realize is there's the backstage of how much work that you have to put in to make that event seem or appear seamless. But there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And that's, kind of a lot of where you come in.
Absolutely. The my favorite analogy is the duck on the pond. You see the top of the duck, and I'm underwater paddling like all get out. And there's great reward in that. So it's not necessarily like frantic, oh my God, what am I doing? But that's my job. My job is to make everything look seamless. Um, and not only from the event planning part, but also the event strategy part, knowing that we've been strategic and thoughtful in everything we've been doing to actually put on that production so that we know that the people who are watching the duck are appreciative and are getting value out of the duck. And it's not just like, oh, that's a weird looking duck. What am I, why am I watching this duck? So
That's great. I love the analogy. So we've talked about some of the fun things and the behind the scenes work, but what are some of the challenges that you have faced as a professional woman?
All right. I think a lot of us, and you and I are in particular, um, working in a very male dominated field. Um,
Mhm.
I, I'm a woman of a certain age, and there were not a lot of women working in sports marketing. There were not a lot of women working in concert promotion. So the good news is growing up, I was always one of the guys. So it wasn't that hard of a transfer, but it's definitely a male dominated society, being taken seriously. Um, I was fortunate enough to get into those fields early in my career. So, lots of head pats and, like, oh, you're so cute. And it's like, yeah, but there's a brain inside the head and I can pretty much market circles around you.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so there's that. And then I think some of the other issues that I think as a woman professional we face too is our imposter syndrome and our own concerns. I started Fresh Perspective 4 years ago. But in hindsight, I probably should have started it about 10 years ago. But I was like, no, nobody needs this. And why would they listen to me? And then whatever reason, the switch flipped, and I'm like, no, they do. And oh my gosh, yeah. And they are listening.
Yeah.
Regardless of gender. But yeah, those are always, we are our own challenges as much as we have the circumstantial challenges.
Right. And like you, I agree with you that imposter syndrome, I think a lot of us experience that. And that's our own obstacles that get in our way, not somebody else placing it there. It's just like, we have to get out of our own head sometimes and believe in ourselves. And even though, you've had 20 plus years experience in your field, you still feel like, that's partially there. And you were questioning that when you were starting your business. And I'm glad you got past that and said, no, I do have a lot to say. I do have a lot to offer and I can add value.
Yeah. And one of the things that was that aha moment that helped me, I still have it, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, we all do.
That helps like narrow that window of time is what I do is different than what my clients do. Mm-hmm. And that I'm helping them do their job better.
Right.
And more efficiently, like a case in point, right? When you and I work together, you could put on an event. Absolutely. Like, again, not curing cancer, not rocket science, but you are better in financial services than I am. And you will make more money staying in financial services than dabbling in the things that I do. Okay. So that's that piece. Like, my job is to help you do your job.
Right.
To make more money doing that. And that helps me a lot in that space.
Yeah. And it's kind of like staying in your lane. Like, I don't have the experience that you have in running events and creating events. And the experience that I do have is not as professional as you and don't have the deep bench. And then the other thing is, especially with what we do, is what's our unique ability? What are we really good at? And that is where we should focus our attention and our time to, not all the other things that are filling in the time space continuum.
Right. And it's also, as individuals, recognizing and value what other people bring, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the examples I like to use is a plumber, right? Like, I could probably fix my kitchen sink. It would take me a lot longer. I'd probably get a lot wetter and it'd be sloppier. But I could probably do it. But why?
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather hire. And when I worked in the event social planning space, I would say that all the time. Like, could I figure out what to put at the center of your table? Well, some would argue maybe I couldn't, because that creativity isn't my strong suit. But I'd rather hire a designer or hire a florist. They've already tripped over those landmines. Why should I? And we can get it done a lot more efficiently and professionally. And hire good people and let them do their jobs.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. And as professionals running our own businesses, because you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, we kind of have to remind ourselves about that. Like, hey, that's not where I should be spending my time. I should outsource that so I can focus on what I'm really good at.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. We all need that reminder every once in a while, because I find myself,
absolutely,
I can do that. It's just easier. No, it's not. Just have somebody else do it.
Right. No. Right. And it's the, old Hillary Clinton line of, it takes a village. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily just apply to raising children.
Yeah.
It applies to raising a business.
Yeah. That's for sure. Actually, that is a great point, because I do use her quote all the time, because I have 3 kids and I'm like, oh my God, how am I doing this? And I have girlfriends and even my clients, I call them and I say, hey, I need mom advice. I need parenting advice. What about this situation? I do all the time. But I never really thought to apply that to, your career, but I actually do it without even realizing it, because I belong to a mastermind group of women entrepreneurs that are just in financial advisor, financial planning space, all over the country, and we talk weekly and we run things by each other. So you're right. I mean, it takes a village is that's such a great saying, and it does apply to so many different levels.
Yeah, we've talked about this off camera. So, and I don't know if we're going to get to this, but I'll jump to it anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
Our family moved across the country in the spring of 2020. And there's a whole, if you ever want to have a conversation of how do you move a family across country during a pandemic, I've got that covered. Don't do it. Come talk to me. I'll talk you off the ledge. But when I do that, I talk about, what it took. And it was, a husband, a 70-pound dog, 2 teenage boys, and a business.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like my 3 kids, the furriest kid, and the one that's been hanging out with me the longest. So
oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. Well, that's why I say, when people ask me who my favorite child is, I say the dog because, different days, they all drive me crazy. Although he can be crazy too, the dog. So
right.
I love him too. I have both girl and boy dogs. So
nice.
Give them equal time. So moving across the country in the middle of a pandemic, that's not disruptive to your world or your business. So let's add in, how did you have to pivot for that? Plus the pandemic, pivoting for the pandemic for your career, because your career, is all about events.
Right.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yes. So the reason that we moved, we were living in Portland, Oregon. We had lived there for 12 years. And my husband had an amazing opportunity to come to Temple University. He's the assistant dean of the College of Education and Human Development. So yes, little plug. If you're an alum of Temple,
absolutely,
meet Ed Stoner. He's awesome. I'm a little biased, but he's awesome. Anyway, so I grew up in Willow Grove. So it was nice. It was a great opportunity to come back to Philadelphia, to see it through my children's eyes, who really had only come here to visit family. And my husband actually lived in Philadelphia at one point, and we didn't know each other. Mm-hmm. It was like early in our careers. So he had this opportunity. He left Portland on Sunday, March 15th with his best friend that he grew up with in Ohio as his co-pilot, and they were going to drive across the country. Right. A little bit of math shows us that life started shutting down as he was driving east, which obviously, creates its own set of questions and stress. But he got here. He talked to his supervisor along the way saying, like, please tell me I have a job, because I'm in Wyoming and I really don't want to have to turn around. But if I don't have a job, then I'm turning around. No. We'll just do it virtually. It'll be fine. He's still virtual to this day.
Yeah.
And there were some silver linings in all of this. The original plan was we would sell our house in Portland. We would take our time to find a house in Philadelphia. And then we would drive in June because we have a son who was finishing his sophomore year of high school. The silver lining in that was we actually moved in May. We sold our house. The person who bought our house needed a quick close because they were living in an Airbnb with their kids.
Oh my.
And because my son was virtual, it was just like, all right, you just have to have an internet connection Monday morning. So instead of driving, we flew, which made me a little sad because I was kind of looking forward to the drive across the country. You really get many chances to do that. Yeah. We found a home that we could rent. And, it was actually really easy to find a moving company because so many people weren't moving. They were looking for work. So that was great. So here we are. Wow. Now, the second part of your question is my business and what that looked like. I don't know why or how my gut told me to do this, but in January and February of 2020, I was like, you know what? I should probably take my foot off the gas, what I'm doing here, because I need to focus on coordinating this move. So when the pandemic hit, I didn't have a lot of items in the pipeline.
Okay.
And I spent a lot of time on webinars, listening to other people talk about how they were pivoting their live events to virtual events, or I should say their in-person events to virtual events. So I gained a lot of knowledge in that window. And then over the summer, I discovered a program where I could be certified as a digital event strategist through the same organization that offers the certified meeting planner designation. And that has been great because it just brought some things to light that really what we're changing is we're changing the venue.
Mhm.
Right? We're not going to a restaurant. We're not going to a coffee shop. We're going to some sort of video virtual platform. And there are actually a ton of them, and they all do different things. So many of us are like, oh, we'll just Zoom. Zoom is literally the tip of the iceberg.
I can imagine.
So I've been able to learn through that program and the people that I've met through that program what you can actually really do with a virtual event opportunity. So I've just added that really to my bag of tricks. And people are still doing events. And this is the side note: if you did events before and you're waiting, don't wait anymore. Do it. Because we don't know when it's going to go back to normal. And I would hate for anybody's business to suffer because they're waiting for it to be back to the way it was. There's really great ways to do it now. And people out there who want to help you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, yeah. So I can see the evolution of what you're saying. Like people are like, all right, when are we getting back to normal? But who knows what normal is going to be at that point. But, and then there's the itch to have something, do something, create something, interact with your clients, your friends, your family, all that fun stuff. Like, I do miss the live in-person events. I do. I love the human contact, but right now it's not advisable. So, pivot.
Right. And I think also what you're alluding to is then you have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Your choice is don't do anything or embrace what is being offered and try to find the best way for that to work for you. It's the conversation that we were having. We were actually on that other call talking about, like, let's look in our crystal ball and see what's going to happen. I believe that we will go to, like, from conferences and larger types of networking events, we will go to a hybrid model. It will, maybe some people will be in person, but there will be a video like this component to it, because what a lot of event producers have discovered, there are a lot more people tuning in than you can probably fit into a ballroom.
True.
So don't cut that out of your repertoire. You just need to think about it. The best analogy someone gave me is you really need to think about your events when we get to that point, and even a little bit now, as television productions, right? Think about, obviously I come from sports. So think about like a basketball game, right? Like the basketball game is being played in the arena and there are people there and you're doing things to entertain those people there. But then you have this whole separate audience that's kind of eavesdropping in, which is your television production. And then you've got a play-by-play announcer and your color commentator who are helping bring those people into that space, but they're not going to actually be in the space.
Right.
So it's sort of one thing is happening and you're producing it two different ways. I think that's going to start happening with large events.
That's a great explanation, the way you just did that, because that we can all visualize that, because we all have watched the basketball games or the football games and we've been in the seats at some of those events. So we know what it's like to be live, but then we also see it differently from watching it through the TV. So that's a great way to explain it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I know you are growing your business and working hard. Let's fast forward many years and tell us what your vision of retirement looks like.
It involves a beach. It involves, I'm a warm weather person. I don't ski. I don't like ice. I do have a vision, and one of my techniques I use in my own motivation is what we call the future self model of, like, what does that person look like? So I'm relaxed. I'm healthy. I am fit. I am still helping people because I can and I bring value, not because of financial requirement.
Right.
I'm really fortunate. I have a mentor early in my career who said, and early, like, 22, said to me, I want you to take $25 out of every paycheck and put it right into savings. And I'm like, I'm making $17,000 a year. Like, how do I do that? But I found a way to do that. And it's the whole, I don't need to explain it to you. It's the whole compounding interest thing. And every job that I took along the way, I made sure that I participated in the retirement programs and participated to my fullest ability. So, knock on wood, all of that will pan out, and I can do the things that I want to do as a human being and not have to worry about my financial situation.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a really good vision for sure.
It's a good vision. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like
everybody
you're
else plays along.
Sure. So, going back to present day,
Yes.
what are or who or what are your I guess the people that you would be able to help the most? Like what type of company or what type of business can you help the most?
I would say it's any business owner, managing partner, director who knows that there's a value in events, but also is brave enough, I like to think smart enough, to recognize that they are not being strategic enough to maximize the marketing value of what they are currently doing. The thing I find the most is people love to throw parties, but they don't have the strategy that takes it over to the marketing event.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really thinking about what your message is, who you're inviting, who's your target audience, like really digging into that. Thinking about the content of whatever that thing is that moment that you are producing. And how are you carrying that moment after the tables and chairs are folded up or the Zoom meeting is closed? I've come up with this paradigm. So many people talk about ROI.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a long time ago, you can't use ROI to measure the success of your events because they're much more complex than simply, I spent X, did I get Y?
Right.
So when you look at an event as a moment and you set your goals and all your strategies to measure that moment, you get a much more robust picture and know how to increase the marketing value of that. So anybody who's willing to recognize their flaws and wanting to get more marketing value out of that moment is a great person for me to work with.
Great. And then how would they find you?
They can find me. My website is thefreshperspective.net, or they can drop me an email. It's Elyse, ELYSE, at thefreshperspective.net, or reach out to Regina. She knows where to find me.
Yes. Well, Elyse, thank you so much for joining me. This was fun. And as always, love speaking with you. We'll look forward to some more conversations as well. And I want to thank everyone else for joining us today. Again, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth. My website is forgewealth.com, and you can follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Forge Wealth. And LinkedIn is still Regina McCann-Hess. I always try to change it to Forge Wealth. There we are.
You can find me. Well, you can find me at LinkedIn too, not at Regina McCann-Hess, but at Elyse Stoner. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was really fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone.